Alright, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about fishing this time of year, fishing the rivers. Now, I live in the Pacific Northwest, and our rivers can be, honestly, because the hatchery is kind of garbage, but they can be fun to go fish. And this time of year, it can be fun to get out there on the rivers. The weather is starting to warm up. There's a lot of, fish coming in, or there should be a lot of fish coming in anyway, but it's fun to get out there on the river this time of year. It's a little bit different from winter steelhead fishing where you're all bundled up, you're freezing cold. The weather's nicer now. Sometimes you don't even, as we get even nicer, you don't even have to wear waders. You can just go out there in some sandals, some water shoes, and just have a good time out there on the river. And so I'm going to show you a few different setups I like to take with me on the river this time of year. Now, what's happening right now, today is May 1st. What's going on right now is there's going to be some summer steelhead coming in. There's going to be some spring chinook coming in. And I'm talking tributary fishing. I fish mainly tributaries of the Columbia River. So smaller tributaries that I can go wade around in and fish these setups in. So I'm going to start off showing you what I bring with me. So first off, I'll start out with, this lighter little spinning setup. Now this is going to be more of a steelhead setup, more of a, summer steelhead. Maybe there's a few winters that are, spawned out, that are going out to the river, or going back out to the ocean, excuse me. But this is my small little steelhead setup. This is a 10'6", 6 to 12 rod, a little lighter. Got 30-pound braid, little slip bobber setup on here. This is a 3/8 ounce slip bobber. And usually what I'm going to be throwing on this one for summer steelhead is, some kind of little beads, little 10, 8 mil beads, up to, 12 and 14 millimeter beads is what I like to throw for steelhead at the highest. But typically between 10 and 14 millimeters is what I'm going to be throwing for steelhead. But beads, I also like to fish, on the setup, I like to fish jigs, a lot of jigs for steelhead. You get those, the lower. A lot of times as we get nicer, the weather gets nicer, we don't get as much rain going into more summer. Get those low, clear water. So it's something like, your little tiny, small little jigs under an 1/8 ounce, 16th ounce jigs. Your smaller little jigs like this one here, straight black, maybe a little bit of black and white, a little black and red. Smaller, toned down colors, because the water tends to clear up a little bit. Now at first, at the beginning, more in April and stuff, we still get some, April rain, and so the rivers can be higher. But as we get more into May, it's going to start dropping and clearing up a little bit. So I like to go with a smaller, less vivid colors as the water, drops down. But so that's the first little setup, just a little spinning rod. Another little setup I'm going to bring with me is going to be a little bit heftier setup. This here is a 9.5 footer. This is actually still the same 6 to 12 pound rating, so it's a lighter rod. It's lighter than I would want, but I'd bump it up to, if recommended would be to like the 8 to 17 or like a 10 to 20 pound rod. Go with a heavier rod and a heavier setup on here. This is actually heavier braid. The other one had 30-pound braid. That's 50-pound braid. A bigger bobber. The other one was 3/8. This is a 3/4 ounce bobber. And this is my, going to be more of a spring chinook setup. The other one was a steelhead setup. This is going to be your spring chinook setup as your springers are coming up. And typically when I pull up to a hole, I'm going to be throwing that steelhead setup first. I'm going to use smaller jigs, smaller beads, and I'm going to be going through there first. And then after I don't see any steelhead, I don't get anything, I'll throw the bigger stuff. I'll set up the bigger setup, the bigger stuff. And typically, I'm also not fishing in the exact same holes. Usually, summer steelhead, I'm fishing more the shallow, rapid stuff, faster moving water, the riffles, things like that. And for these chinook, they like to sit in the deeper, darker holes. So that's why you go with a bigger bobber, bigger weight to get down into the deep holes. A little bit heavier gear because they're going to be bigger, strong fighting fish. And then for my baits that I like to throw on here, a lot of, bigger beads. I'll go with this is a 16 millimeter bead on there right now. That's not really that big of a bead. Steelhead could easily take that. Steelhead could take a bigger bead, 20 to 25 mil too. But usually for steelhead, I stick with the 14s and under, and then the 16 and up I use for salmon typically. So like a 25 millimeter bead works really good. I use BNR soft beads. You can use any beads that you want, but you know, and for the leader, I go a little bit heavier. On that steelhead setup, I'm running 12 pound fluorocarbon, and you can even go down once you get into the summer, more in like June, July. You're fishing like really low, clear water, smaller creeks. You can drop down to like 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon if you want to get really stealth. But for the most part, fluorocarbon is pretty dang invisible anyway. So like a 20 pound for the salmon, and then when that steelhead setup, I typically run around a 12 pound. No heavier than 12 pound fluorocarbon on the steelhead. So on here, so yeah, beads is going to be something that I like to throw a lot. And then bait, of course. And for both salmon and steelhead, this time of year, bait is a huge factor. And I like to use, you know, a lot of eggs. I cure my own eggs or salmon roe. You know, you catch a salmon, you gut it, and it's got, you know, catch a hen that has eggs in it. You cure up the eggs and use them for bait. Use little chunks for bait. That works good for steelhead and salmon. Shrimp. I love fishing shrimp for both, whether it's coon shrimp, prawns, you know, or just going like a grocery store and getting some like little like a bag of like salad shrimp. It's called like just a little shrimp. Just to have that, you know, it just has that shrimp flavor to it. Just some kind of bait. And I like to tip, you know, for steelhead, you can talked about using little jigs. You can tip a little piece of shrimp on your jig, or throw it behind a bead, run a bead, and then on your hook, you'd put a piece of shrimp, so it's a combo, bead and shrimp combo. But those are a couple different techniques I like to use. But I just keep it, you know, a little bit heavier setup, bigger bobber, maybe a bigger rod, and usually bigger beads, bigger baits for the springers. And then my other one here, smaller bobber, lighter line, smaller beads, smaller baits, smaller jigs. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Kind of got cut off at the end. I'm not sure what happened. The camera stopped recording. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next video.